What's going on, everybody? Pounding Rocks Truck Shop. I did a video yesterday talking about turning 50. That happened today. I can't believe it. I made it to 50s. Um, I don't know how I really feel about that. It's kind of strange. But my 40s are over. Everything that I did from 39 to 49, it's been a crazy last 10 years of my life. So I figured I'd kind of like maybe go and do some highlights. As I said, I tried to record this yesterday, and the hour that I did it, no one really tuned in. No one's tuned in right now, but that's okay. Whatever. I'm just gonna kind of just randomly yap. But yeah, it's my birthday today. Happy birthday to Pounding Rocks Truck Shop. Well, happy birthday to Dr. Rocks. 5-0. Wow. Yeah, my parents had me over for a fast birthday party today. My niece, who she's 17, she's getting ready to go to college, and she's asking me what kind of car I should buy, or she should buy. And I'm like, wait a minute. You were just born. I'm like, you're still a baby to me, but no, she's 17. She's getting ready to get her first car, and she's going to go to college and be a graphic design major, which I think she's going to do excellent. She's a phenomenal artist. She really articulated the conversation I had with her was just mind blowing for a 17-year-old. I mean, there's hope for the future yet. There really is. She's pretty sharp. And my nephew, he's 15, and he's hilarious, but he's cool. He's cool. He wants to go to trade school to become an electrician. So he's looking into going into BOCES for um, learning household and commercial electrician work. Um, and he might reach out to some of the local unions to see if he can get an apprenticeship early, like just get involved. He's like really like he wants to just grab the rope and just start pulling on it. So I love that. I told him I was like, dude, if you do that, you get involved now, even as an apprentice at 15, whatever work you get done, whatever you can achieve between now and 30, you're going to have a money problem. You're going to have money falling out of your bunghole, and it's going to be amazing. I said, you're going to be trying to pick what boat you want to buy today. And he's just like, oh, I love that. He says, he's smart. He's a smart kid. And so he's going to go to trade school, and my niece is going to go to graphic design school, and they're both set on the right targets. I think I definitely think that they're on the right targets. So I'm pleased. I'm proud as an uncle. I'm proud of both of my niece and nephew. And that was my conversation that I had today during my birthday party. So happy birthday to me. I'm the big 5-0 today. Whew. Well, technically I'm not 50 because I'm a leap year baby. So I've got 2 more years. I'm actually technically 12 and a half. So in 2 years, in 2028, I will turn 13. So, but I'm aging horribly for a 13-year-old, which is funny. So I got some people in here asking this something or other. Do you think you I should like and sub? I will. Do whatever you want, man. Free country. We fought a war in 1776, so you can do whatever you want. I'm not going to get in your way. I recommend that you subscribe because I'm doing some interesting stuff, but you don't have to. I'm not really going to hold your feet to the fire on that one, but I would appreciate it if you did. I'm just kind of kicking back, drinking some coffee with some honey in it, just because now I'm old, and I've had this whole week off. I took this whole week off to just kind of finish off my 40s in a ultimate bachelor kind of fashion. And so I rode my snowmobiles around for whatever snow we had left. Let's see, what else did I do? Um, I'm starting my new job on Monday, so I'm going back into being a parts guy for a trucking company again. Which I'm it doesn't bother me one way or the other. It's kind of more like a landing, so I can take off again and do something else. The job that I was doing, the extinguisher job, that's a great job. It's a great company, but at 50 years old, having to swing from banisters and climb through all kinds of stuff and carry extinguishers over your shoulder, on your back, between your legs and everything. I didn't see myself doing that for terribly long. And I like to challenge myself. I do. I've been working out for almost 2 years now. I've got myself on a 2 year regimen, but my body just was telling myself, dude, you don't want to do this for too long. And I saw an opportunity to get out, even though I was only in for a short period of time. I didn't want to get locked in, and then all of a sudden the scramble, the struggle of life, grabs me. And next thing I know, I'm like, oh man, if I don't go in this musty basement and sift around in this for the extinguisher, I'm not going to get paid. I didn't want to do that. I want to get paid. Um, and so this is kind of a soft landing right now. It keeps money coming in. It allows me to save money. And then when I get my next idea of what I want to do, then I can go and take off and do that. Or if the company treats me right and I like doing truck parts again, I'll stay. I don't care. It doesn't. If I'm happy, I'm happy. That's all I care about. In this second half, or actually, I can't say half. This is technically the last third of my life. So the first third was, you know, being an infant to, I would say, college. That's the first third of my life. The second third was, you know, getting my life together. I met my ex fiance. I lived with her for over 10 years. And then I hit my 40s, and I lived through my 40s here at this place for the most part. And now that I'm 50, I would consider that my last third of my life. I don't really see myself living into my 90s or anything like that. I haven't treated myself the best. So I figure that I'm going to probably sunset somewhere in my mid 60s. Who knows? But I'm trying to do it healthy. I'm trying to do it right. It's not easy, but I'm trying to stick to my regiment and everything. This week has been bad. I've uh, I've eaten crap and I haven't worked out. I just been kind of kicking back, playing video games, riding the snowmobile, hanging out with the dogs. Firing off the new firearm I picked up the last week, doing all that. So this week coming up, I'm going to be getting myself back into some kind of routine. But the last week of my 40s, the last week of being in my 40s, I just took it easy. It was just smooth sailing, easy. No job, no bills. Just wake up and enjoy the day. But this Monday, in 2 days, well, actually, yeah, 2 days, Monday, March the 2nd, it's time to put the pedal back to the metal and just continue on with the original course and speed of having enough money to be comfortable and have some fun with vehicles along the way, get back into working on the trucks, get back on the Datsun project, finish the Chevy project, and then maybe even start the mud truck project with the old red truck Le Rouge. We'll see how far I get with that, and then do some car shows, do some junkyarding, sell some stuff online, buy some stuff, and just make more friends, just make more connections and everything like that. One of the other things that I did this week was I'm this close, where's the camera? This close to becoming a member of the town board for the town that I live in. So that's going to be cool. I'm going to be a politician, so to speak. I'm actually going to become more of a judge because I'm going to be on the zoning board of appeals. So I'll be doing that. That'll be the next thing that I do with my life. So I'm really kind of taking a very interesting journey for this last third of my life. I just, there's just a lot of things that I'm interested in doing, and some of it I don't even know exists yet. I'm just waiting to see what kind of floats my way. So, yeah. How's everybody doing? Um, so let me just say that the life story of me, real quick, just to say, but I'm going to just kind of blast through things. Obviously, there's age 0 to college. Nothing really interesting to report there. I partied a lot in college, and I went to school for telecommunications, audio radio engineering, basically being a soundboard mixer. And then I went to community college for Toyota technical training to become a technician. I worked for Toyota and Nissan back in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s as a technician. I got out of that and I got into parts. Around 2003, 2004 is when I got into parts for heavy trucks, class 7, class 8. Actually, I'd say class 5 through 8 is my specialty. Trailers and construction equipment, engines like Caterpillar, Cummins, Detroit. So that's my specialty, and I did that for 20 years. Actually, it's 22 years of being somewhat either directly involved or indirectly involved, and that's been primarily my life. Whether it was involved in selling outside sales, I did agricultural for a short time period with John Deere, and then I also worked with a construction company doing parts for construction equipment. That was interesting. Um, and then I tried to get out of parts by doing that fire extinguisher thing. And as I said, it was just it was physically demanding for what I'm able to kind of generate for myself. I was finding I would come home and I would just crash on the couch. I wouldn't do anything. So I'm like, this is not going to work because I want to get home and do stuff. The other thing that, the other factor that went into my decision to leave that industry was that I drove a company truck every day, which is great for keeping mileage down on your own vehicles. But in the summer, I like to drive my green truck. I like to drive Time Machine 720, my Nissan 720. And now that I got the 89 Chevy, I want to be able to drive that during the summer. And if I'm driving a company truck every day and I'm not going to an office, I'm going to a customer and then coming home, there's no opportunity for me to drive those vehicles during the summer except on the weekends. Because if I get home at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the first thing I don't feel like doing is getting green truck out of the garage, taking a shower, getting my work clothes off, getting cleaned up, and then going out with no destination. Well, that's fun. That's a weekend thing. I'll go with no destination, and then I'll usually land at the ice cream store or, the ice cream, serving place down there where I'll get a milkshake, and then I'll drive around one of the lakes, and I'll just drive aimlessly. But I don't want to do that at like 5 or 6 o'clock at night. Just don't feel like it. And the other thing I didn't want to do was wrench. I would come home and I didn't want to wrench. I was just so exhausted from climbing and scaling things. And, you know, as I said, it's an awesome job. If you get into the fire extinguishers, it's an awesome job. But you do it young while your body is still functioning. That's all I can say. So I got out of that, back into truck parts. That allows me to drive my green truck to work. That allows me to drive the 720 to work. That allows me to drive the Chevy to work. Eventually, the Datsun truck will go to work. I can drive the Infinity. I haven't driven the Infinity since this past October. I think I took that off the road in October. So I haven't even touched that. I got to seal up that fuel leak and then I can drive that. So then I'll have a wide range of vehicles to drive, and none of them are a full size Chevy van with a utility body on the back of it, which is just, if you've never driven one of those, don't. It's not the most enjoyable thing, especially because everybody that's following you on the expressway gets completely frustrated. Even if you're doing 100 miles an hour, they just don't want to be behind you. They don't want you anywhere near you, so they'll pass you dangerously. They'll do a bunch of stupid stuff, and after a while, you're just like, man, driving this thing is a pain in the ass. I can't stand this thing, so I just want to park it. So that's not in my driveway anymore. And which is nice is that I got my whole yard back too, so I can pull anything out, pull anything in that I need to. So I'm good with all that. Oh, wow. So so that was the short version of my 0 through 20s. My 20s through my 30s was fixing all the damage that I did when I was in my 20s, i.e., fixing my credit, saving money, establishing a career path, putting some time in a late, in a at a company, so it didn't look like I was job jumping or anything like that. So I was with that company, with one company for 9 years, doing parts for 9 years. And during that time, I got engaged to a country girl who uh, I lived with. I moved out of the city to go live with this girl, and I lived with her for 11 years. And then in 2017, things started kind of going off the rails, and in 2018, we decided to split. So she stayed where she was at, which was her parents' house, which is the old Nismo D21 shop. That's where that is where she used to live. That so the videos that you see prior to 2017, that's all done in the old shop. That's all the old shop. Um, in 2019, that's when it was established here. Yeah, so I guess I would say prior to 2019. I don't think I did any videos at the old shop after the end of 2018 because I knew I was losing the facility. I was working on Double Dare Extra Large. That was my main focus, was getting all that taken apart, getting the frame towed over to my buddy Justin's house, and that's where a lot of the videos were coming from, was from Justin's shop. Um, and then Double Dare was moved here, so then all the videos have been shot here. So that I was, well, let's see, I've had the house 7 years. So I was 43 years old at that time. So 41, 42, I was still engaged. I was still living in the house with my ex fiance, and I was at the old shop. And Double Dare was still a Pathfinder, 4 door, no engine. I didn't own the 720. I didn't own any of the Infinity. Um, so that happened. Her and I split. I bought this house, which came with the shop that I've been working in there, the um, 2 bay carriage house. Um, and I moved everything in shortly after purchasing the place. So all the tools were moved in. The trucks were brought in spring because I don't like to move anything in winter when there's salt on the ground. So the trucks came over in spring. Um, and then I was still working as a parts guy, but in 2021, I left the company that I was with for 8 years, and I went on an adventure from 2021 until now. I left. I went into agriculture. I then eventually left that. I went into construction, and I left that, and then I went into extinguishers, and now I'm going back into the trucks. It's been quite a ride. We've had 2 fires at this house. Um, one in 2022 when a crackhead cut down a tree and knocked the power wire off the side of my house and shorted full power to my basement, to my ground in my basement, and started a fire in the basement. That was fun. And then I had a second one when I had a chimney fire in 2023. So this house has had 2 fires in my possession. Um, those both were minor. They didn't damage the house any, but they were still there. They still happened. I ended up having to replace all the electrical in this house from the panel box all the way up to the roof. That was uh that was great. Love that. Let's see the number of dogs that have been in this house. When I first moved here, Jet, who's sleeping on the couch right here now, Jet came with me. He was a carryover from the old house, and my baby girl Athena, she was with me. She came with me, and she's not with us anymore. She showed up and left. She left us to go to another dimension in May of 2020. I did a video dedication for her, and she's sorely missed. Um, so Jet is still here. He's old, but he's still kicking. Um, Shortly after Athena left, That's when Benny showed up. He showed up probably about a year after her. I think I got him in. No, he showed up like 4 or 5 months after Athena passed away because she left in May. He showed up in August. So Benny's with me here. He's one of the first dogs that I adopted that didn't come over. He was the first dog I adopted that didn't come over from the old place. So he's still with me. He's turning 7 this year, if you can believe that. Whew, time flies. He was not even 1 years old when I got him. He was a handful too. My goodness, that was definitely a T Rex in dog form for sure. But he's a good boy now. And then in late 2021, I want to say December, maybe November, but I want to say December 2021. I rescued my first dog out of New York City, Blue. He's on the video. If you go back through some of the older videos, he appears here and there. He was a very sickly dog. He had a lot of medical problems, and but we loved him just the same. I got him as much treatment and as much comfort care as I could, and he made it from December of 21 to December of 24, and we lost him to cancer. Cancer just he just couldn't do it anymore. So we could let him cross the bridge, and then it was just Benny. No, I take that back because in June of 2024, Link showed up, and he was my second rescue from New York City. This has been the most advanced level dog I've ever had. Definitely had. He was a very advanced level dog. He's very high prey drive, high energy. He can chase you around on the snowmobile for like 4 hours straight and still not be tired. The other boys will all be asleep on the couch and not budge for like 6, 7 hours at a time. This boy will pop up and be like, "Where are we going? What are we doing? What's going on?" So he's been trouble, but deep down inside, he's a good boy. He was so mismanaged through his puppyhood that he had a lot of healing to do, and he had a lot of pondering to do to figure out what kind of dog he wanted to be. And I see more and more signs of him wanting to be a good boy. He just has a hard time staying focused on that because there's certain things that trigger him to behave like a stray dog or like a hunter seeker kind of guy. So it's hard because I don't need that in my dogs. I don't mind barking if somebody's at the door, but to go into wolf mode where he will hunt people down, or I wouldn't say people, but hunt anything down for the most part. Um, I've had him do. He's done some things that I don't really like, and so I have to keep my finger on the pulse with him and keep a watchful eye on him. He's getting better. It's not as often, but it's still on the table as options as what he thinks is an option available for him. And I can't be everywhere at every time, so it's just tough. He soaks up a lot of time for me, not medically, but just mental bandwidth because he never rests. He never can rest. So that's a tough one. But he was dog number. So we had. He's dog number 3 of original dogs to this house. He is dog number. He's dog number 6 for me in 18, 19 years now. In 19 years, I've had 6 dogs. Um, I've always said for the longest time here, I always seemed to have 3 dogs at a time. I had 4 dogs at once, and that's a lot of dog. I was hoping to go down to 2 dogs, but Link never got adopted. Nobody ever showed any interest in him. He was going to be a permanent foster, but I was like, you know what? He might as well stay. He's been here this long. I know him. I know what he's capable of. I know what I'm watching for when it comes to looking over him. I'm not a genius and I'm not omnipotent at all, but it would kill me to see him chained up in somebody's backyard the next town over if he got adopted, and I'm driving by and I just look and I'll be like, oh, I know where he lives. And then I look at the backyard and he's just chained up and he's miserable and unhappy. I couldn't let that happen to the boy. So I decided I would step in and I would adopt him. And here he is. He's laying on the couch. For as much of a pain in the ass that he is, you know, what are you going to do? Yeah, so I'm 50 now. Crazy. So my buddy Justin, he's awesome. He got me a birthday gift this year, which blew my mind. I've got a Lund visor for a Nissan hardbody. He gave that to me for Christmas, which is cool. It's already painted white. I think I'm gonna put it on Double Dare. But yeah, he always gets me cool gifts. He's gotten me Datsun trunks. He's gotten me, we just junkyard parts are always a good gift for me, especially if it's something old Nissan stuff. I like that. Something I can hang on the wall. He's given me Datsun 510 and 610 hubcaps. I've got Datsun 1200 hubcaps. I got Datsun 1200 tail lights. I've got, so many different Nissan parts. Oh, he gave me a Datsun or a Nissan hardbody shift boot today too. So I got a two-wheel drive Nissan shift boot. He's cleaning out a warehouse right now of an old guy who was basically an Oldsmobile hot rodder from the 50s and 60s, and he was building all these cars, which is going to be like my problem is that I'm going to have all this shit, and then I'm going to die of old age, and none of this shit's going to be done, and so then somebody's going to show up and buy the lot out like Justin and sell it, part it out, whatever they end up doing. That's going to be the same thing that happens to me. So that's what's going to happen to my vehicles. When I die, I have one request, and I told my buddy Justin this because I'm going to make him like, he's going to be in charge of getting rid of all my vehicles and all my parts and everything after I'm dead. I told him there's only one request. The one request is to take my green truck down to the Nissan Museum in Tennessee and just leave it there. Just bring it there, hand them the keys, and just say, have a nice day. They don't even have to show it. They don't even have to ever bring it out. They can just put it in their underground garage and just leave it there for the rest of eternity. Just leave it there. That's my only request. Everything else, I told him he can have all the cars. Just, you know, do what you want with them. If you want to get rid of them, get rid of them. If you want to hoon them, hoon them. If you want to fix them up and keep them, keep them. I mean, if you want to scrap them, scrap them. Whatever you want to do with them, because I won't be on this planet anymore. I'll be old and dead and gone. What will I care what happens to my stuff after I'm gone? So, but I trust him. He would do the right thing, and if it helps him make a few extra bucks, so be it. I'm not going to worry about it. But seeing that old guy passed away, and all of his unfinished projects are now here at my buddy Justin's house, with all of his parts and all the spares and everything, it just makes you kind of think, I don't have a lot of time. I can't permanently be buying projects without finishing them. I have to finish something. So Double Dare is on the top of my list this year. Top of my list, must finish. The Chevy I must finish just for having a truck that I can use that's not a little four-cylinder truck. I want to have something that can actually tow a trailer, whether it's for a boat, a snowmobile, jet ski, my two-wheel dolly, just to have something that's not a four-cylinder little mini truck trying to tow a trailer, all that. So, but yeah, we're just chilling out here tonight. It's Saturday. I ate a lot of pizza. Kind of regret. I think I'm gonna regret that, but whatever. It's 50. My uncle turned 70 the other day. Jeez, that means that he was 20 when I was born. That's nuts. That's nuts. The way time gets behind you. It's just weird. The last time I felt nostalgic about getting old, I was 25. And I sat down and I said, quarter of a century old, and that really put the zap on my head. That one really kind of hurt. Saying I'm a quarter century. I'm a half a century old now. Half a century ago, I appeared on this planet. That's pretty fucking wild. I'm doing it though. I'm doing life. And I'm doing it on my terms, and I'm having it. I think I'm having an interesting life. I think I have an interesting life. I think that I'm enjoying what I'm doing at this point. I'm just doing whatever I want to do whenever I want to do it, as long as money permits. I didn't accumulate any. I didn't accumulate student loan debt. I don't have any credit card debt. I don't have any car payments. I pay utilities, and this whole 1,800 square foot house is cheaper than most rent out there right now. I bought this house in 2019 before the housing craze, and this house has more than doubled in value, which is crazy. So the amount of equity that I have in it is pretty insane. But I haven't taken out any loans against the house, um, and I pay cash for everything. And if I have to wait, I have to wait. I've done it before. Instant gratification is nice, but I can wait. I can definitely wait for that kind of stuff. So, 50 years old. What a wild concept, man. I remember when I was 14, there was this cute girl who used to deliver newspapers, the afternoon newspapers. And I was such a stupid simp back then, and I didn't realize what I was doing. I thought I was cool, but I played guitar, and I had a guitar. And anytime this girl would come roll out, she would use a scooter to drop off papers, and I thought she was really cute. And I'd say shit to her from across the street, and all that. 14, just an ugly dude. And I'd play guitar on the porch just so that when she came rolling by, she would think I was like cool. And I just remember, I mean, it's at my parents' house, just sitting on the front porch every day, waiting for her. And yeah, it never happened. Nothing ever happened. Now she's fat and ugly, which is funny. Serves her right, but whatever. I don't give a shit. But at the time, I was definitely simping it up that way. But there's no going back to those days. There's no time machine that can take you back to 14 years old when you're sitting on the front porch playing guitar. When you had no responsibility whatsoever other than maybe you have to get some homework done or whatever. But other than that, I was playing with RC cars, shooting hoops because we had a basketball net in the back of the house, shooting hoops with my brother, hanging out with my buddies, playing music. I was in bands. Everybody seemed to be in a band, or bands changed daily in that school. You'd have like 45 different bands with the same three people with just different styles of music and who was playing drums today. Yeah, we called ourselves guitar assholes because we would go out and buy um, all kinds of guitar gear. We're talking like early 90s guitar gear, not this plug-in bullshit, but pedals, tube amps. You could still buy tube amps at that time period for pretty inexpensive. I remember 70s strats were at like the House of Guitars for like between 500 to 700 bucks. I just remember that like real 70s strats. Can't touch that shit now. 70 strats still haven't like climbed up in value that much, but they're still well over 1,000, and some of them are over 2,000. But back then, you could get one for like 500 to 700 bucks. I've always had the $500 mentality. I don't think any of the guitars in my fleet right now are. I don't think I paid over 500 for any of them, and they're all nice. I've got an American Strat, I've got Japanese Strats, I got a couple Mexican Strats. Um, and I got a parts caster too, which that parts caster is pretty awesome. I like that thing. It's a pretty smooth thing. So, But I just, when I think about sitting on the front porch there playing guitar for that girl who didn't really like me anyways, I was there today. I was at my parents' house today for this little mini birthday party, and I'm standing on that front porch. I'm just like, man, you know, would I even want to go back to that time period? If I was given the option to stay and continue the course at 50 years old or be transported back to 14 years old, I don't think I would do it. I don't think I would do it. I think I would stay here at 50 because the amount of trials and tribulations that I went through in my teens, in my 20s, and my 30s, and and my 40s, I don't want to go through those again. I really don't. I mean, not all of them were pleasant. Some of them were kind of shitty, but there was some good stuff that shaped me into a decent person that is a law-abiding person. Um, but I don't think I'd want to go back. I mean, if I do go back, if I had to go back, or if I was offered to go back, I'd go back as like a third party observer, just kind of a third party observer watching myself at that time period and being like, oof, I remember that day. Oof, I remember wearing those clothes. Oof, I remember when that girl rejected me. All those kinds of things. I would love to see my first car though. I'd love to see my first car with these old eyes. I miss that. I miss that car. That car is cool as shit. Many don't know, but my first car was a 1984 Nissan Sentra station wagon. That was my first car. Was a 1984 Nissan Sentra station wagon in red, and I have one of the hubcaps on my wall over here from that car, along with a photograph that shows it with those hubcaps on. And I saved the hubcaps from it, or that one hubcap from it. It's been gone for a long time. I got that car in 1993, and no, I didn't trade it. I didn't trade it. I gave it to back to my parents, and they donated it and gave me money for it. And then they just wrote the taxes off. So it was donated. It was probably just went straight to auction and got crushed. It wasn't in the best of shape, but it was a cool car. I mean, we had a lot of memories in that thing. There was a lot of shit that was pretty crazy in that car. I had that car from 1993 till 1996. I went to high school through it and college. And then I got rid of that car, and my second vehicle was a 1981 Datsun 720 King Cab two-wheel drive pickup truck. It was all rattle can black. It wasn't all that too wasn't in great shape, but it ran great. I had it from 96 until 2000. I drove it from 96 until 2000, well, roughly about 2000, where I parked it in my parents' garage and I just kind of left it there. I was considering it a project, but I just kind of stuffed it in my parents' garage and hid it there. They eventually wanted me to get rid of it, and I ended up getting rid of it. I regret it, but I had actually fucked that truck up. I put a Mazda bed on the back of it, and the body lines didn't match at all. And from that point on, I never felt the same about that truck. I wish that I had stayed with the original bed, even though that bed was falling apart. But it was a good truck. It was reliable. It had some issues, but you can still fix shit back then. That's why this new truck, this new 720 that I have now, is basically the same truck. It's not the ST though. Mine was an ST, not the fully fitted out ST. It didn't have power windows and power locks, but it had the full interior. It was definitely an ST with the tachometer, clock, all the bells and whistles on it. There's just it had been abused. It had like 4 coats of paint on it, and some of them were cool. You could see that it had been like a powder blue, and it had been like some kind of aquamarine color. You could tell that it had been like, it must have been like somebody's truck in the 80s where they repainted it from the silver and tried to make a fancy truck out of it, which was cool. But then it rusted, and then they sprayed it flat black, and then I got it. It was flat black. So if I paint my 720 that I have now satin black, which I'm thinking about doing because that tan paint is really fried. If I paint that flat black or satin black, it'll be the same truck that I had when I was living in I used to live in Auburn, New York, just before I went back to school for automotive technology, and I drove that Datsun everywhere in Auburn, New York. That was my hometown. Well, it wasn't my hometown, but I called that town home. I got along very well in that town. And I had a girlfriend at the time. We were engaged then too, and the plan was for me to attend Toyota Nissan school for automotive technology. I would graduate, and then we could just spin the globe, and wherever our fingers landed, that's where we would move, or wherever she wanted to move. I didn't care. If she wanted to move to Arizona, fine. I would have a job, a baseline job that I could find work anywhere. So I moved from Auburn to Rochester, and I went to school. And when I finished school, actually, no, I was going to go to school. And then shortly after that, I was going to bring her to Rochester. We could get an apartment together. Well, that didn't really like pan out. She backed out of everything at that point, and so it was just me going through school. And yeah, that was a pretty bad and painful breakup. That really affected me greatly. And I've never really like trusted most people after that. I wish I hadn't have done what I had done, like in terms of like, please don't leave me. But I was a stupid simp back then. I would never do something like that now. I would just be like, okay, like I've done. Okay, you don't want to be here? Goodbye. That's just that's the correct answer. It's like you don't want to be here? Goodbye. That's all I can say. I'm not gonna try and save anybody. I'm not gonna try and keep you here. If you don't want to be here, you're not here. Okay, goodbye. Even if you're just playing games, I don't bluff. If you're bluffing, well, that's a stupid bluff. And so I just, the last girl that I was with, she did that. And I was just like, okay, goodbye. I didn't want to have anything to do with that. But 30 years ago, roughly 30 years ago, 27 years, I guess, if you want to be exact, I was definitely a different person. And I definitely was, you know, heartbroken and destroyed from that whole ordeal. But it worked out. It all worked out. I had some growing pains. Every young man's got to learn something at some point about that. I just learned long before the internet. Long before the internet, this red pill shit was affecting my life, and I just couldn't put a finger on it. But I was proud of myself for knowing some of the things that I knew. So that didn't pan out, but I still had the Datsun, and then I got an Altima. I got a '97 Altima. It was 2 years old. It was It was in '99, and I just remember loving the smell, the interior, the smell of that car. It just smelled fresh and clean, and I kept that car like gorgeous all the time. I was so proud of that car. I was like, this is the first car that I've had that didn't have rust all over it. It was you could wax it, you could wax it and make it nice, and it had the bells and whistles. It had power windows, power locks. I'd never had power windows before. None of my vehicles had power windows before that, and I never had power locks either. So I was like, man, homie's on his way up, moving on up. And then I started modifying that car. My dad has a tendency of crashing cars. I don't know what it is with him. He just crashes everything. He wrecked my mom's 2.5 liter LE Sentra. He wrecked his Xterra. He crashed my Altima. He didn't do a terrible job. I ended up getting insurance money for it, and I went out and I bought one of the first VIS carbon fiber hoods for a U13 Altima. I ended up doing that, putting that on the car. Then I put sprint spring suspension on it and SE side skirts. I did power folding mirrors from a Bluebird over in Australia. I found a junkyard in Australia that would ship, that I could buy parts from and have them shipped here. So I had Bluebird parts sent here and turned it into a quote unquote Bluebird, an American Bluebird, a USDM Bluebird. So I thought that was pretty cool. The car was pretty cool. I put carbon fiber interior in it and everything. And Spec V 17-inch wheels. That car looked nice. But then time took its toll, and it started rusting, and I started having some bad luck with it in terms of like people hitting it, people breaking into it. The stereo was stolen twice out of the thing. You can't have nice things in the city. You really can't. If I didn't have it in the city and I could garage it here, it would have been nice forever. I would have kept it nice forever. But it was a highly reliable car. I think I put a wheel bearing in it once. That was it. The rest of it was oil changes, tire rotations, brake services, and 100,000 miles. It was one wheel bearing and maybe a set of tires. That was it. And I put a custom exhaust on it. It had a, oh man, don't ask me now what the hell exhaust it was. Oh, it was a Magnaflow. I had a Magnaflow exhaust on it. Oh, that was during the Fast and Furious days. That was the Fast and Furious days of 2000, 2000, between 2000 and 2004 was the peak of me modifying Ultimas. I wasn't a moderator on Ultimas.net, but I wrote a bunch of mechanical articles over there under the name Reverend D. I don't know if anybody knows that. They might recognize that. Um, I wrote a few different repair articles because at the time I was working for Nissan. I had access to their technical bulletins. I was doing work on those cars and the L30 Altima. I think it was the L30. The next model, the L30, I think it was the 2000 through or the 1998 through 2003, 2004 Altima. Um, so when I did a repair, I would write the how to for it. So there's a few how tos over. I don't even Ultimas.net has been gone for a long time. That was a long time ago. Holy moly. I was mid 20s. So I was probably 22, 23, 24. Young lad. Young lad. Um, but that was a great society. That was a great community for a time period. Right there in the early 2000s. There were so many funny threads. There was so much great stuff going on there. And I met some great people, and we actually threw two car meets. I think they did more after that, but the first two I was involved in. The first one I organized all myself, which was the 2003 Nissan Grafton State Park Nissan meet for the Northeast. So I had Nissans coming from Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York. A few come down from Canada. Actually, had IBI body kits come down from Canada and bring one of their cars down to show. And that was one of the most off the hook renegade car meets I had ever been at. But it was respectful. It wasn't a clout chasing, hoon fest or whatever. Somebody actually there was a couple guys that autocrossed and they brought their own cones with them and in the parking lot. So we had the whole park to ourselves because it was early in the season. Nobody had rented it. So we set up cones in the parking lot and we were running our own autocross course. One of the guys that came down was a police officer from Massachusetts and he was cool. So when security came around and asked questions, he spoke up for us and everything, which was cool. He's just like, I'm just here to have a good time. These boys are well behaved. We had food, a barbecue. Took a lot of cool pictures. There was a lot of cool pictures there. Um, and then the hotel party in the evening was off the hook. That was pretty funny. I remember this kid Scott. Forget his username now, but his name was Scott. One of the funniest mofo's I've ever met in my entire life, especially when you put some beers in him. That guy was funny as hell. So that was fun. And in 2004, we tried to do the same thing. We tried to capture the same past glory. And there was more people there. I was involved, but I was less involved than I was the first time because the first time I went there by myself. The second time I went there with this girl who clearly didn't want to be there. She clearly didn't want to be with me. So it was kind of like, you know, she was separating me from that group. I couldn't have that fun. And then at the same time, she was, I think she cheated on me right then and there at that show too, because there was some dude there from Canada that was all over her, and he was telling her to meet him in his room after I went to bed, and she struck me as the type that would do something like that. And so, she didn't last very long with me, but she kind of ruined the show just by being there. So when she decided that she didn't want to be with me, I was like, "That's it. Have a great day. Not gonna, not gonna chase your ass around. You're not worth it." So I didn't go to the 2005. I don't even know if there was a 2006 Grafton meet, but I think by 2005 they were no longer welcome at Grafton because it got so off the hook because it was Renegade, and I think that there was a lot of bad actors that showed up at that meet. So they did some bad stuff. They did some bad things or with bad behavior or whatnot. And Grafton said, "You're no longer welcome here. We're not doing this anymore." There was actually an article written in the Grafton News about how inconsiderate that show had been. And I was like just standing back going, I'm glad I wasn't a part of that. Because in 2005, I had moved. I was now living in a frat house with three other three other people, and I wasn't so into doing the car thing at that time. I was very hyper focused on music and partying. I was doing a lot of drugs at the time. Nothing like hard, nothing like heroin or crack or meth or anything, but smoking a lot of weed, blowing some lines, opium, shit like that. Drinking terribly. I definitely drank every day, and not just beer, but like hard alcohol all the time. I always had a Captain and Coke going. Um, and so the Altima the Altima was parked in the street now. So up until that point, the Altima was always parked in the driveway. So I lived in a house with this girl. We weren't together, but at times she acted like my wife. So the car was always parked in the driveway. It was safe. And then the at my parents' house, the Altima was also in the driveway all the time. So it was safe. It was not in any danger. But when it got into the city and it was parked on the side of the road because there was no off street parking, that's when you started to see that car really start to go to shit because people would drive by, they'd knock the mirror off or they'd break into it. It got broken into a lot of times. You'd see random scratches. There were a bunch of kids that were throwing a football around one day, just hitting everybody's cars. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Dude, stop hitting my fucking car with your goddamn ball, you fucking retards. So the car just went down and down and down and down. And then eventually I was working in my first job at the heavy trucking industry, and I was making the best money that I had made ever. I was doing really good compared to what I was doing before. And so, like everybody who gets a new job and starts making some money, you're gonna go buy a car because you're stupid and you don't understand how the repercussions for that will affect you. But you live and you learn. So I ended up trading the Altima in for a 2002 Mazda Millennia. Beautiful car. That's a beautiful car. They really did a beautiful job designing it. The interior was nice. I really liked just the layout of the car. The car was a piece of shit. The car was a huge piece of shit. Um, if the lifters didn't collapse, it wasn't shifting in the first gear, it wouldn't shift in overdrive. It was just a nightmare car. It just sucked terribly. And I was upside down in it because, I bought it wrong. The car was only worth like 8 grand, and I think I paid 14. They saw me coming. I didn't know anything about economics or finances at that time. I was just looking at monthly payments, and that will get you every single time. So I ended up paying way more for a car that wasn't worth what I paid. And I was originally there to buy a Sentra. They had a Sentra. Actually, I didn't even want to buy a car from that dealership. I don't know what they did. And I haven't researched it. I don't know what they did. But I was at another dealership and I looked at an Infiniti i30, the original i30, not the second generation or first gen i30. And I liked that car. And I went back to that dealer. So I tried that car and then I went across the street to another dealer. That dealer went into my credit somehow and somehow locked my credit so I couldn't buy the other car. Or these two were friends. And because I went back to look at the i30, I was like, I don't know if I want to buy that Mazda. I'm like, I'm not really feeling it. I'd like to buy the i30. And he goes, well, it's too late. I can't get to credit because the guys across the street already ran your credit and you already have a loan for that. I'm like, how did I get a loan for that already? But they saw, as I said, they saw me coming. I was an idiot. I took a car that was fully paid off, the Altima, traded it in against a car that I overpaid for, went completely upside down, had a bad engine, bad transmission. I got completely fucked on that deal. That car ended up on blocks on the side of my house. So I moved out of the city and I moved down into the country with my ex fiance. So that was the car that I was driving at the time. And it got so bad, and I didn't have any money to fix it, like to fix the problems. I had enough money to buy a cheap beater, but I didn't have enough money to fix the problems on that car because it needed an engine, and it probably needed an engine and a transmission. I didn't even want to mess with it. So I put it up on blocks. I went and I bought a 96, a 96 Nissan hardbody, two-wheel drive, regular cab. I named it Grumpy. That was a great truck. I think I bought that truck for like $800. And ironically, I think I found a copy of the original Craigslist ad. I think I printed it out. I don't know where it is. I don't know. It's somewhere. It's somewhere in this pile of books back here, but the original Craigslist ad for that truck. And so that's cool to see it. And I think I paid $800 for it. I had to put a fuel tank in it, brake lines, and a windshield, which I did. And I drove that truck for probably about 2 years. Rain or shine, salt. I put a set of nasty studded rear tires on it, and it had great heat. It passed emissions, and I drove it until the U joints fell out of it. And also, I had paid off that Mazda, so I took the time to. I was driving that hard body, and I was paying off the Mazda because I couldn't get out from underneath the Mazda. I was so upside down in that car that the only thing that I could do was pay it off because I couldn't even trade it in. That engine was clack, 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 clack. I mean, the lifters had collapsed and this thing just sounded terrible the whole time. So I couldn't trade it in. They would have given me like 500. I think they were like offering me like $500 for the car. And I'm like, dude, I owe like $4,000 on this car. I can't take $500 for it. So I ended up, excuse me, my nose is blocked. So I ended up paying the car off. I also sold parts off of it too, so I could make some money to just kind of make ends meet. So I was selling things off the car. I think I sold the wheels, the tires, I sold the tail lights, I sold a whole bunch of shit out of that car. So it was not a non-functional car anymore. I paid that car off. I got the lien release from the bank. I put it on Craigslist because Craigslist was what we used back then. We didn't have Marketplace. So I used Craigslist, and a couple. I don't know if they were Russian or the Ukrainian, but they showed up, and they bought the car. They brought their own wheels. They brought a dolly. They bought the car. They got it off the blocks, and they took off with it, and that was the end of it. And that car was paid off. And I took the money that they gave me, and I went out and I bought a 2002 Nissan Frontier 4-wheel drive. It was an SEV6. It was silver, power windows, power locks, keyless, 4-wheel drive. It was an automatic, but it was a badass truck. It was a badass truck. It only had 80,000 miles on it. I put a timing belt on it like shortly after I bought it, just because I knew I wanted to keep the truck, or I thought I was going to keep the truck. And I had it, and I was driving it, and I was just happier than a pig in shit. This was a nice truck. It could be waxed. I put a tonneau cover on it. I put a trailer hitch on it. You know, yeah, I kept that truck nice. And then the gas crisis hit. Um, it just hit really bad. So where was I working? So at the time I was working at the dealership, I was working for a Hyundai car dealership as a parts guy. It was only for like a year, and I hated every second of it. I don't want to ever be an automotive parts guy ever again. Never, never again. I don't want to deal with that at all. So I was there for a short while, and it was only like 15 minutes away from my house. So I was driving this Frontier, 15 minutes to work, 15 minutes home. No big deal. But then I decided I wanted to leave because I hated it so much. And that's when I got the job with the international truck dealer as their parts guy there. This is 2012. So I started driving from down here in the southern tier up to Rochester every day. And that was 80 miles a day. Well, that truck was getting 15 miles to the gallon because I had to come up, I had to get on the expressway, I had to go all the way through the whole nine and all that stuff. I couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford it anymore. I was barely making it on that. I mean, I probably could have made it, but I had a problem with that truck that sealed the deal. I drove through a mud hole for fun because I wanted to fling some mud up on the truck. Drove through a mud hole, and somehow, in the process of it, I broke one of the pipes off, one of the exhaust pipes off, right at the catalytic converter on the manifold. And to replace that, you had to replace that catalytic converter on the side. We tried to fix it, tried to weld it up, tried to do a whole bunch of stuff. There was just no way to actually fix it with a welder. Sleeved it, did whatever we could, and then that truck was just awful to drive from that point on because the exhaust drone was just terrible because it was you were only hearing three cylinders loud and three cylinders quiet. It would just oscillate inside the cab, and next thing I know, I wanted to jump out the window because I'm like, this is just the worst thing ever. Plus, I'm only getting 15 miles to the gallon. I have damaged this truck. I have to get rid of this truck. So I drove that till the beginning of 2013, and I traded it in for a 2012 Nissan Versa 5 speed. That was my daily driver from 2013 until I got rid of it in 2018. So 2013 to 2018, it was 5 years, almost 6 years of driving the 5 speed basic Versa. That was a great car, except very uncomfortable, and it permanently screwed up my neck. But it got 40 miles to the gallon, and it would go through snow like nobody's business. That was great. It was a great car. I like that car. Then it started having mechanical problems. Once I got up over 100,000 miles, it started having mechanical problems. So I traded it with my buddy for a 2011 Hyundai Sonata that had an engine replacement done under the recall because Hyundai and Kia they can't do engines. They just don't know how to do engines. They can design cars. They have no clue how to do engines. It's terrible. So it's just an atrocity. But that engine had been replaced under recall. So the car itself had 160,000 miles on it. The engine probably had 15. So I took it and I started driving that to work every single day. And I was driving that from the old house, the old Nismo 21, Nismo D21 shop, the old Pounding Rocks shop before it was Pounding Rocks. And I drive that to the city every day and back. And at first it was okay. At first I was like, yeah, we can deal with this. But there was something really oddball about the shifter on that car or the way it shifted. I could not stand the way that transmission shifted. In a normal car, you start in first gear, then you go to second gear, then you go to third gear, and so on. Not this car. I don't know what this car was programmed to think that it was doing, but this car would go from first gear to fourth gear to second gear to fifth gear, down to second gear again. It would not shift sequentially. And I was always giving more gas to try and downshift it so it would continue its acceleration process, because I would start at a light and I'd be doing 30 miles an hour and I was still trying to accelerate. Say I was trying to accelerate to like 45 miles an hour, and the car skipped second and third gear and went straight into fourth gear. And there's no codes, nothing was coming up saying that there was a problem with the thing. And my buddy's like, yeah, it's one of those environmental friendly things where it's just trying to save you gas. And I'm like, dude, it's driving me nuts. So I started hating that car. I really hated that car. I did not enjoy that car at all. And I was going to get rid of it. It was all paid off. I had no payments at all or anything like that. I had traded the Versa for it. So I had no payments at all. And then shortly before, I was going to try and get one last season. It was 2020, COVID 2020 in February. Well, just before COVID really like hit, but it was 2020 in February, the last of the somewhat normal days of this country. Um, I was on the thruway. I was following somebody who was driving very, very slow under the speed limit, who decided to, instead of speed up and get out of the way, they were in the left lane. They decided to brake check me, and I tried to maneuver out of the way to get out of it, and I ended up going into a slide, and I ended up going head on right into the guardrail. And as you can see, I move my head around quite a lot. That's because I'm constantly cracking my neck, because I have permanently fucked up my neck and my back, and that accident was it. Because I had my arm like this, the airbag went off, and I had to have jammed my shoulder and completely fucked everything up. At the time, I was, they were like, the fire department was there and all that stuff. They're like, do you need to go see an ambulance? Do you want to get checked out? And pride and adrenaline made it so I didn't want to go and see them. So I said, no, I'm fine. Well, I've lived to regret that. And that car was completely totaled. That car is completely destroyed. Um, so I lost everything. I think Justin gave me $500 for the carcass, which is fine. It was not even worth that much, but he was able to salvage a few things off of it and make money off of it, because he knows how to make money off of anything. But then that is when I had a few other daily drivers. So right after that failed, after that failure, um, I went down and bought a 1990. I think it was a 90. It was either a 90 or 91. It wasn't any newer than 91, but it was definitely a 90 or 91. It was a Nissan hardbody, two-wheel drive, regular cab, 5-speed. I said I had good luck with that 96 that was cheap. Maybe I'll have good luck with this 90 that's cheap, because I know how to fix them. And I think I bought the truck for $1,600. I think I paid $1,600 for that truck. And I drove that for a while. I think I drove that from February, March, until I would say probably around August, maybe a little earlier. It was either July or August. It was the hottest part of the summer, and it blew the head gasket. I was driving along, coming back from the dog park. I had Jet in the truck with me, and I'm driving through town, and there was an accident. So there was a huge traffic jam up ahead, and I'm like, oh man. And I look down at the temperature gauge, and it's like pegged. It's like right at the hotline, and I'm like, oh no, that's not good. I'm like, I got to keep this thing moving. I want to keep air going through that radiator. I want to just get home. That's all I want to do is just get home. I'll figure it out when I get home if I can keep it cool enough for long enough. So it took way too long to get through town. I ended up taking a few side streets, I think. Finally got home and it quit on the way right around the corner from the house. I got it to restart just enough to coast it up into my driveway and shut it off. And yeah, all the coolant had gone into the oil pan. It had blown the head gasket. It had also run out of oil too, so it wasn't a very happy motor at that point. And I don't even know why it was catastrophically decided to blow up that day, but because I had done maintenance on it, it wasn't like I just got it and didn't change the oil or anything like that. But who knows? Um, I make mistakes. So that was the end of that project, and I ended up buying my neighbor's Sienna van for like $150, and he said it's got a Christmas tree on the dashboard, so when you start it, you're gonna have every light on. Well, Toyota, in its infinite wisdom, if the check engine light comes on, the ABS light comes on, and the traction control light comes on. So my neighbor really never was able to figure it out. But when I scanned it, it came up as just an O2 sensor, a main O2 sensor, a, an upstream, O2 sensor on the front bank or whatever it was. So I bought an O2 sensor and I plugged it in, just unplugged the one. I left the one in the front pipe and I just plugged this new one in, and it turned all the lights off. And I was like, well, I guess we're golden. We can proceed with fixing this van up. So I ended up having to put a front pipe in because that was pretty badly patched and rotten. Put a front pipe in it, did the brakes all the way around, put tires on it, put some neon lights in it because it's a van. The dog, Jet, he really approved of it. He was very happy with the thing. And I think he's still kind of bitter that I got rid of it. But I drove the Sienna van for the rest of the summer until probably about October. And I was driving on the thruway, and the entire exhaust system just fell right off the thing. So I ended up having to pull over, pick it up, put it in the back, and I was driving. It was open pipe. It was the loudest thing in town. It was unbelievable. So I bought the Sienna for $150. I probably had, after fixing it up, I had probably about $900 into it total for everything. That's tires, brakes, exhaust, the whole 9 yards. Well, the dealership my buddy Justin was working for at the time, they had a 2017 Impreza 5 speed with about 18,000 miles on it. And I was like, okay, that sounds like a cool car. I've got some money to put down, and I've got good credit, and I got the Sienna van. What are you guys going to give me for the Sienna van? They offered me $2,000 for the Sienna van. I was like, so take the van. Um, so that was in October of 2020. So the Sienna van went to the dealership. The Subaru came here. I have had the Subaru ever since. Um, I've put 70,000 miles on the Subaru. Generally, if a car is good, it'll stay here for roughly about 6 to 8 years. That's generally the length of time that I keep a car. But this car is still under 100,000 miles, so I'm keeping it till I'm gonna keep it till it starts really like giving me shit. Um, it hasn't been my favorite car. I like it, but it just goes through brakes like nobody's business. I have no idea. I've done brake jobs for 30 plus years now. There's a right way, there's a wrong way, and for some reason, you can grease the sliders, you can anti seize all the bolts, you can put anti squeal on what you need to put anti squeal on. You can put good rotors on it, you can put shit rotors on it, you can put good pads on it, you can put shit pads on it. It goes through brakes like crazy. The rotors just do not last out here. And I did the E3 coated rotors, I've done the factory rotors, and now I'm on cheap fucking eBay rotors. They all gave me the same results. They rust to shit, they pulsate, the pads loosen up, they start making noise, and then next thing you know, you're doing a brake job on it. So in 88,000 miles of owning this car, This is the third brake job that I've had to do on this car. I did it a year and a half ago, and these rotors are already shit. They're already rotted to shit. And it's because of what they spray on the throughway. It's what they spray on all the highways around here. It just rots them to death. I said the E3 coated ones did the same thing. It didn't get in any longevity either. And I pull these brakes apart and I clean and I lube the sliders. I don't just slap it together and drive it until I hear the squealers start going. I maintenance the brakes. And this stupid thing just plows right through brakes. It's the same thing. I just had it apart yesterday, as a matter of fact, because now that I got the new job coming up on Monday, I'm going to be driving this thing again for the next few weeks until the weather changes, and then I can start driving my fun stuff. But for a few weeks, this turd's got to go back and forth. It's a 20-mile drive, so it's doing 40 miles a day, 20 minutes. Um, I wanted to make sure that it had brakes. I wanted to make sure the brakes were functioning, and they look like shit. They do. They look like shit. Rotors are all rotted. Um, the backing plates have rotted. They rotted off like 2 years ago. They're all just, it's just rubbish. The rear brakes are the same story, rotted. Doesn't matter. You can put the most expensive rotors on it. You're just wasting your money. So that's one of my big complaints there. And every heat shield that's on the car has fallen off of it. I've had to rip those heat shields off. I've used hose clamps at some points to kind of tighten them up, but that didn't stop it. So I would just take the hose clamps off and just pull the heat shields off. I don't think there's a heat shield left on that car. Um, and that little 2.0 is just a gutless wonder. I think the Versa was a little bit more exciting to drive, which is not saying much at all. But I think my 720 accelerates better than this thing. This thing must, I don't know what the program is or whatever, and I'm not going to have anybody go in there and tune it or do any of that shit because that's the daily driver. The daily driver never gets modified. That's my standing rule. My daily driver never gets modified because I don't want to have to go to a dealer sometime and they tell me we can't do anything for you because you modified X, Y, and Z. And I don't want to have to go to some kind of other shop because I tuned it or I did some kind of aftermarket whatever on it. And that's the only option I have is to go to some kind of like tuner shop. I don't want to deal with that. Leave it stock. It's completely stock. Everything's stock on it. I haven't modified a thing. I put one sticker on the car. That's the only modification I've done is one sticker, and I put LED high beams on it because out here in the country, you want LED high beams. Um, I don't use LED low beams, just LED high beams. But I've had the car 6 years now. This will be year number 6, and it's been knock on wood in the stool here. It started, it starts, and it drives. I don't give a shit about anything else. If it rusts out, if the body starts looking shabby, which it is kind of looking a little shabby, I don't care. Tires, brakes. I've had to put wheel bearings in it in the rear. I got to put wheel bearings in the front. Those wheel bearings are just junk. The Subaru can't put a wheel bearing that lasts in any of their cars. It's just terrible. It's an atrocious mess. My ex girlfriend had a WRX. She went through wheel bearings like crazy. At least I'm not going through head gaskets. At least not yet. Um, but as I said, if it starts acting up and giving me a hard time, away she goes. She's got to go. So that's the story. That's the whole story arc from my first car to today of daily drivers. I haven't talked about the other projects. So if you want to give me a minute, I'm going to just use the can real quick and I'll be right back. Got any viewers? Of course. Of course not. Oh, come on, algorithm, fire this up here. I've talked about some interesting shit. I'm talking about Nissan cars. Nissan. See if that works. I'm back. Pounding Rocks Truck Shop. I'm Dr. Rocks. Just sitting back, 50 years old today. Just reminiscing the old days, reminiscing childhood, reminiscing cars. We're talking about cars right now. And, I might tune out in a little bit because I think there's other things that I can do. I've been alive for like hour and 20 minutes here, which is not bad. So let's talk about the outside projects, the not daily driver vehicles, the ones that have kind of orbited around, were like support vehicles to the daily driver. So the first one to appear was my green truck, which is the one that really kind of started the channel. Also called Autocross Hardbody. And the reason I call it that is because I used to autocross it with the SCCA until probably about 5 years ago, 6 years ago was the last time that I've autocrossed it, and I've kind of retired it to just kind of like cruiser. It's a cruiser, it's an ice cream getter. That's about it. But I bought that truck. I purchased that truck in 2008. I purchased it for $2,600, but I only paid $2,000 because I built a website for the guy who sold it to me. So he gave me a deal on the truck in lieu of building his Harley Davidson hog website thing, because that's what he was into, is building bikes. So I built that website for him. He gave me the title. This is 2008. So green truck has been with me for 18 years now. I've taken care of that truck for 18 years. It's had some stuff done to it. You can go back through my channel to see. My channel starts in 2013. So at that point, I had already had the truck for 5 years. Now we're at 18 years. You can see the changes that have happened. It really does look significantly different than when I first bought it, but not so different that you can't recognize it that from its original form. Unfortunately, the guy that I bought the truck from, he passed away, and I want to say that he passed away in, oh God, 2020 or 2021. He was an interesting guy. He was a Harley guy. I've known him. I had known him for a long time. I forgot how I even met him. I forget how I even met him. I think I don't even remember how I met him. You know how there's just some people that appear in your life and you just cannot remember the day or time that they just appeared. They just appeared. That's just kind of how it is. This guy. But I do remember that I was working for Toyota at the time, and I was referring work to him. If a customer didn't want to have something done, like say they didn't want to pay a lot of money for their 1986 Tercel, I would recommend that he do the work, because he would do it a lot cheaper, and he was really good with the Toyotas. He was big on Toyota. He was a big Toyota guy. So I was sending him a lot of work, and he gave me a couple cars in my time for thanking me. He gave me a Volkswagen Golf that was resurrected out of the junkyard. It was an '86 Golf. It had a bad oil pressure sender, so it would always be screaming at you that you didn't have oil pressure. The car itself was ugly as hell, and there was a padlock holding the rear hatch closed, but the interior was mint. So I got the car for free. I ended up selling that car for $500 on Craigslist to a guy who was a Volkswagen enthusiast, and I got $500 for a free car. That car was kind of funny too, because the e-brake handle was not attached to the floor, so you could just rip the e-brake as a whole assembly out of the floor. The cables were still attached, but the actual assembly wasn't mounted to the floor. There was this girl, this cute girl, and this goes back to when I was still simping. When you think that when you do stuff for girls that they will eventually find you attractive and want to go out with you, but that was never the case. So now I don't do that shit anymore. No more. That's not something I do. I'm not interested in that at all. But at the time, I was definitely knee deep in that, and she had a mid '80s Toyota Celica that needed some work, and she would bring it to me because I worked for Toyota at the time. So it made sense that she would bring it to a Toyota guy. So I had to go get a part for it, I think. And she was hanging out with me at the time while I was working on the car. And I said, well, we got to go to, I forget what it was. I think it was Parts America. I think Parts America was still around at the time. So we had to go down to Parts America. And it was funny. I'd pull this joke on people. And it was funny. Like I would switch my feet so my right foot was on the clutch. And then I would pretend to step on the brakes, but I was actually stepping on the clutch. And I'd be like, oh no, we don't got no brakes. And I did that with this girl. And I've never seen somebody freak out as much as this girl did. I think she thought she was going to die. So we're driving down the road, and I'm driving along, and I do the foot swap thing. I put my foot on the clutch, my right foot on the clutch, and I start pumping the clutch. And I'm like, oh no, we lost our brakes. And she's like, oh no, use the emergency brake. I'm like, okay. And I grab the emergency brake and I just rip it out of the floor. She screams. She starts screaming. She thought she was gonna die. I actually had to tell her, I'm like, no, I'm sorry. It's a joke. It's a joke. We have brakes. I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to mess with you. Oh my god, I freaked her out so bad. Oh my Lord. It was funny though. I still find it funny because she was never in any danger. It was just me being a wise ass, a practical joker. But yeah, I ended up selling that golf. I don't know. Remember what I got next? I went through a few different cars that were on the side there. I had an '83 Tercel. That thing was a piece of shit. I bought it for $150. I put a fuel tank in it, and I drove it once, and the throttle used to stick really bad, and the thing tried to kill me. And it took off, and it downshifted on me one day and heading straight to the back end of a car at a red light. I ended up putting it in neutral and jumping it off a curb to stop me from rear-ending this car. I had both feet on the brake pedal too. This thing did not want to stop, and I jumped the curb, and I ended up at a gas station, and I got out, and I looked at the throttle. And the throttle was completely sticky. And I was like, well, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna really like nurse this thing. So I set the throttle at like a low amount, and it was basically like having cruise control. The car the engine would just idle up, and it would just wherever you put the pedal, that's where it would stay. So I ended up getting that home to my parents' house, and I parked it in the garage, and it sat there the whole time. I never touched it after that. I didn't even like try and fix anything because you couldn't really get parts for it. It was an '83 Tercel. Nobody had anything for it. Although Toyota, you could order stuff, but I wasn't going to order dealer parts to put it on a $150 car. So it just sat in the garage. And then when me and my friends were out smoking cigarettes and hanging out in the garage, we would just kick the car, and you could just hear rust fall down on the ground. It was just raining rust. It was so bad. That ended up going. That ended up going to the scrapyard. I bought a 1992 Corolla from my friend's mom. It was a white four door automatic. It was a decent car, crank windows, basic car. And I was so new to automotive world. It needed a transmission. They had driven it with no oil in the transmission, and it got to the point where it built up so much like just mechanical mung inside of it that it popped a hole in the case and just drained everything out that was in there, all the metal bits. So you couldn't even fix it. There was just a huge hole in the case. And I never got around to fixing it. So I ended up selling it to the guy that I bought my green truck from. and he fixed it and he painted it and he sold it, and it was, I was like, wow. So that's the potential that that car had. That's pretty cool. So I thought that was awesome. That was a 92 Corolla. I had a 1984. I bought a 1984 Toyota Corolla station wagon. It was a 5 speed. It was one of the rear wheel drive ones. I think it was the last rear wheel drive Corolla you could get. And I remember that car, and I never actually got to drive it either. I had bad luck with these three Toyotas. None of them I was able to actually drive, except for the Tercel. The Tercel I drove once, and it tried to kill me. The Corolla never moved, and this Corolla never moved because I got it. I towed it home. But the same buddy that I bought the green truck from, I bought the Corolla. I asked my buddy because he had a tow truck. I said, "Hey, can you help me tow this Corolla to my parents' house?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, no problem." So we went and we picked up the Corolla, and we're towing it down the expressway, and got it to my parents' house. And the first thing I noticed was that the rear bumper was gone. I'm like, the rear bumper is gone. I'm like, where did the rear bumper go? And it had to have come off while we were on the expressway because it was there when we left the house, and we only left that house and went on the expressway and got off the expressway and went to my parents' house, and the bumper fell off the car and disappeared. I was like, well, there goes the rear bumper. That's gone. And then shortly after that, I would run it because the car ran, and the body wise, it wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad car. I really liked the layout of the thing. I was excited to drive it. But then there's a little round cap with screws on the fuel tank. And I noticed one day I went outside and the driveway, it had rained, but the driveway was completely like green with like algae. And I could just tell. I'm like, oh, this the gas tank on this thing is leaking bad. So I went underneath it and I was like, well, the tank itself is fine. It's just that cap with the screws. Toyota didn't offer it. So you couldn't get the cap separately. You couldn't get the fuel tank from Toyota either. That wasn't available. Um, so I went junkyard. I went to, we're talking junkyards around, I was working for Toyota at the time. So let's say it was probably between 1996 and 1999. That's the junkyarding then. We didn't have the internet. We had the swap sheet, and you would go to a junkyard and you would ask them if they had it, and then they might be able to go and source one through their network. But there wasn't like now where the you pull it will send you a text saying, oh, the car that's on your list is now in the yard. Didn't have that option. I mean, shit, I didn't even have a cell phone. There was no such thing as a cell phone then. So I think I had a StarTAC phone. I had a StarTAC phone. You didn't get text on a StarTAC phone. So I never had any luck finding a fuel tank for that, and that car ended up getting donated. I gave up. Now I probably would have, used as many resources as I could to just get a fucking fuel tank for the thing because that's all I needed. The rest of the car was awesome. That would have been a cool car to have. I ended up getting rid of that. So those were those three Toyotas that I had. See what else I had. I had a 72 Cadillac limousine for a very short time. I had a very short time. It was a 500. I was at school at the time. It seemed like a good purchase. I was stupid with my money. I think it was like $500. I can't remember what I paid for it, but it was from the same guy that I bought the green truck from. Because for a while, him and I were doing like all kinds of business together and stuff. And I was sending him stuff down from the dealership so he could work on it. He was making money doing turning a lot of wrenches, so he was appreciative of what I was doing. So he would either give me good deals on cars or give me cars. And so it was pretty cool. And I was selling him cars. So I had that Cadillac, and that was awesome, except for you don't want a 72 Cadillac when you're only working like 10 hours a week. And I was working as an apprentice. So I had to do an apprenticeship for the Toyota program. And since I was in school full time, I couldn't work full time. And so I was doing evening stuff there, mainly quick lube stuff. But because I was at the dealership and I was getting hours, it counted towards my apprenticeship hours. But I wasn't making squat. I mean, I think I was probably making $8 or $9 an hour doing oil changes for this dealership, and that was it. And I would work until 8 or 9 o'clock at night. So the Cadillac, I couldn't afford it. So I ended up getting rid of the Cadillac. And the only reason I had it in the first place was because I had my Datsun down at my buddy's shop down there. And that's when I replaced the bed with the Mazda bed. And I ended up regretting that. And that was all probably around 90, yeah, I would say 98, 99. So I had the Cadillac there. I had the I had the Golf, the two Corollas, the Tercel. Oh, over at my buddy Justin's house, I have a list of all my cars that I've owned. I've had like 30 cars in 33 years. He's had way more cars, but he's buying and selling shit all the time. So he's had over 200 cars, but I've had 30 cars. So the green truck showed up in 2008. I bought it after I quit smoking cigarettes, and I used the money that I saved from not smoking cigarettes for a whole year to buy the truck. I got a good deal on it because I did the website for the guy, bought the truck. After that, I didn't talk to that guy for a long, 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 long time. We just kind of went different directions on what we were doing. But up until that point, we had been friends and had done some deals and shit like that. I've had Green Truck for 18 years now. That's been my pride and joy, although it has not been my number one in quite some time, just because it really doesn't need anything, although it does kind of need valve seals and it does kind of need the timing chain done. I just don't want to down it to do that. I'd rather do that over the winter. But because it's parked on the other side of the barn, I don't feel like working on it on that side of the barn. I'd rather bring it over to the working side of the barn and work on it over the winter. But it is definitely. I'm gonna pop the power into this thing just in case we're running low on power. Been running without power for a while now, so this will just sit there and be the good phone that it's supposed to be. Yeah, that's better. How's that? How's that? How do you like that? Trying to think of other cars. So the next vehicle that I had, so in 2011, Watkins Glen International has every year has the Vintage Fest. They've done it for decades now. They do the Vintage Fest, and in 2011, it was supposed to be every year they feature a different brand or what they call mark. And in 2011, the featured brand was Nissan and Datsun. So with that, if you own Nissan and Datsun or a Nissan or a Datsun or anything Infinity or whatever, if you paid if you paid the admission fee of $140, you could do 6 laps around the original track, which went through town, and then you would do 6 laps around the actual Watkins Glen International track, and then there was a car show, and you would park your car or your truck, whatever, um, with the other Nissans that were there. It's the only year that they've done Nissan. Everything else is always seems like they're always doing Ford or Ford Mustangs or MGs or Corvettes or whatever. But for one year, I noticed that they did Nissan, and I wanted to do it. And in 2011, I was signed up to do it, and my buddy Justin was going to come with me. The night before, I washed the truck, and I was going to put it in the barn, and then in the morning just dust it off, and we were going to go. Well, I hit a deer on the way home, so that really put a damper on that occasion. And we ended up we stayed up quite late that night trying to straighten the truck out, try to get everything back together. We were just going to show up and be like, we were on the way here, we hit a deer on the way here. This is how dedicated we are. We showed up in a wrecked vehicle. We're going to still do the laps around the Glen. We're still going to do the car show, but we're going to put pictures of what the truck looked like before the accident up. But unfortunately, the radiator was destroyed, and we weren't able to find a replacement for that. In the morning, I wasn't able to locate one, so I called I called the club that was organizing the event and I said, "Hey, I'm not going to make it." They're like, "Sorry to hear that." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, I would like my money back." And they're like, "We're sorry, we can't give you your money back." I'm like, "Okay, so can I show up in something else?" They said, "Yeah, you can show up in anything as long as it's a Nissan product." And I was like, "Well, all right." So we went down in my 2002 Frontier four wheel drive, and boy, did that really put thorns in people's asses. Holy moly, that really did. So I'm driving around Watkins Glen chasing 300ZXs, 280ZXs, Datsun Roadsters, and here we are in this four wheel drive Frontier. It was great. There's only a couple photographs I have from the event because most of the photographers would tilt their cameras up as we were driving by because they thought we were just there to be a bunch of assholes. So we did the laps around Watkins Glen, and we pull up into the paddocks after we did our laps, and the chairman of the event comes up and rips my sticker off the front of the window and told us, he's like, "You got to back up and you need to get out of here right now." And I was like, "Okay." For one, if I back up, I'm going back out onto the track because that's not the exit, and I don't think it's safe for me to go back onto the track now because there's other cars on it. And two, and I showed him the receipt and I said, "Two, I paid to be here. I'm the guy who wrecked my truck the night before, and I called you guys to let you know I was bringing something else down." And they said, "As long as it was a Nissan, it's okay." And he just cuffed and he puffed and he slapped the sticker back on the window and handed me my paperwork and then just went off. And ended up writing a letter to him saying, "Dude, you treated me like I was some kind of fucking asshole when I explained clearly that I had wrecked my truck the night before, but you had to go and be a douche about it." And I'm like, I didn't really appreciate that. And they sent a letter of apology and all this stuff, but they haven't done a Nissan event since, so I haven't been down there for that. I've gone down to the Vintage Fest just to walk around, but until they do another Nissan event, I'm not paying any money to go down there to do any of that shit. It was all right, but it was pretty funny. Everybody was mad. We were driving through town. We got heckled a lot. That was pretty funny shit too. We got it on camera. I should upload that to the channel. I should upload those videos to the channel because I think it's hilarious. So next time I get a chance, I'll do that. But that's going back a long ways. That's 2011, man. That's 15 years ago. Is that 15 years ago? Yeah, that's 15 years ago. Holy fuck. Jesus. See? See what happens when you turn 50? You lose all track of time. God damn. Still is fun. What's great is me and Justin are still friends for all those years. He was just over at my house today. As I said, he brought me that lawn visor for my birthday. Um, he brought me an emergency sharp box, which has got I think it's got an emergency pair of underwear, an emergency miniature roll of toilet paper, and it has a pin on it that says "I survived a shark attack." I mean, I'm 50, so the shitting my pants jokes are never going to stop. But Justin and I have worked on some great stuff, and we continue to be good friends. And our buddy Steve, he moved down from the city to be down here with us. He lives around the corner with his girlfriend and his daughter. They just bought a house around the corner from me. I was just over there yesterday firing off rounds from the new pistol I bought, which is great that you just can drive 4 minutes and have a range there and just, that was cool. Steve has done some great projects with us and everything. I think that the three amigos are great friends. I mean, I feel very comfortable down here. That's why I stayed down here too, because after me and the fiance broke up, it was kind of up in the air where I was going to land. I had no idea what I was going to do. I could have rented an apartment and tried to continue to save money. I'm glad I didn't. But I really wanted to find a place to bring the dogs, so the dogs had a house, a yard. I wanted to do what was right for them. And my old girl, she didn't do too well here. She was so used to the old house, to move a dog after 10 years of living in one place and then move her here. She had just lost her I just lost my other dog. The two of them were in love. She deteriorated so quickly, so badly. I felt so bad. I'm like, oh man, baby just wants to go back and live the same life that she was having over at the old place. But it didn't feel the same after the first dog passed away. Never felt the same. So getting out of there was actually kind of a good thing for all of us. And Jet over here, who's sleeping on the couch right next to me, he don't give a shit. He's the king of this town. Everybody in town knows him. Everybody in town loves him. They think he's great. And he's been with me for 8 years. I've had him 8 years now, and he's probably about a little over 11. A two-time cancer survivor. He had cancer, jaw cancer, and he had his spleen removed. He's been a great boy. A little noisy, very demanding, but a great boy just the same. And he just got his first cortisone shot in his ass last week for his mobility, so he can walk and be have less issues. Hey, what are you doing over there? Oh, let's see. So after the Watkins Glen event, I can go forever. I can tell stories forever. This is this story night. I might as well tell the stories. Why the hell not? Nobody's here to listen to it anyways. I got a goose egg for watchers, so I can say whatever the hell I want. After the Watkins Glen event, I needed to figure out what I wanted to do to fix the green truck. And I had met a guy at another car show who had a couple Datsun 620 trucks. One of them is the land speed Datsun 620 that was running the Ohio Mile, and held the record at the Ohio Mile for whatever class it was in. I liked his work. I figured that he'd be the right guy to talk to about fixing my truck because he did good body work, and he was a Nissan guy. He goes all the way back to racing roadsters. In his office, he had a picture of him with Mr. Katayama. He went to a car show, a Datsun Z car show. I don't know. I want to say in the early 1990s, and he brought his race car roadster to the Z car show. And the Z car guys, they completely lost their shit. They're like, you can't have a roadster here. This is all Z car stuff. Well, this guy, he was cool. I haven't really talked to him in years now. But he's like, I paid to be here. I'm just going in. So he just went in and he parked his roadster in that sea of Z cars. And when Mr. Katsuyama went around and was looking at cars, he picked that guy's roadster as one of his favorite cars of the show. And I think one of the things that drew the attention to that car, and this is the story I was told, was that the car was number 39. That was the number 39. And from my understanding, and this could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, because stories get told everywhere, but 39 in Japanese means thank you. Um, so I think that's what drew Katsuyama to the car, was 39 meant thank you. And so that was the photograph of Katsuyama standing next to the car with Barry Brown from Writer Restorations. So I ended up bringing my green truck to that shop. And there's some car show stuff that I've posted on this channel many, many years ago when I was kind of a regular at that shop. So he fixed my green truck, did the four-wheel drive fenders, did the hood, did the doors, everything from the doors forward is new on that truck. Straightened out all the axles. You would really have to nitpick to see the damage on that truck, where that damage was. He did a really good job fixing it up. I, put it back together, and right after I put it back together, the truck was selected as Truck of the Quarter from Nissan Sport Magazine. I don't even know if I have a copy of it here. I think I do. It's a little dark in here. But yeah, one of these issues, I can't remember which one it was, but it was selected as Truck of the Quarter for 2012, because that's when the truck was finished from being repaired. Because it spent all winter over at the shop getting fixed, and then I brought it home. Actually, no,
It didn't go in the winter. It went in the spring, and it came back at the end of summer. Got it together. Got some photographs of it. Everything's zip tied. The pictures look great, but everything was held together by zip ties because I was just trying to get. I They contacted me and they're like, "We love your truck. We want it to be truck of the quarter, but we need some pictures. Can you get me some better pictures of the thing?" And I'm like, "Okay, let me see what I can do." So I zip tied everything together, made it look good, parked it out in the yard, took some pictures, sent it to them, and then they put that in the magazine. So that was funny. Um, During that time period, I had made friends with that crew over at the body shop, and he wanted to build a truck. He wanted to build an off-road race truck in the spirit of like Iron Man, Ivan Stewart, Roger Mears, like those desert racers and stuff like that. He wanted to build that, and he wanted to go rallycross racing at the SCCA. He used to race for the SVRA. He used to race with at all these different tracks, but he had retired from that, and so he wanted to just get into local SCCA racing. He saw that I was autocrossing, and he liked that, and he used to bring his 510 out and autocross with me. Um, so that it was a cool bond of Nissan guys together. And the first truck that he bought that he didn't end up building was Le Rouge, my red truck, my 1991 Nissan, which I still have. He bought that truck, and I know I had seen that truck on Craigslist because remember at the time we had Craigslist, we didn't have Marketplace then. So he bought that truck, and then he didn't want to build that truck. He ended up selling me that truck for $400. He wanted to build another truck that he found around the corner, and he handed me cash one day, and he goes, "Walk around the corner to that shop over there. Tell him tell him here's the money, get the title, drive the truck over." So I did that. I went over and I picked up what was going to be the future rallycross truck, which you guys have seen that online. It's black. It was the black truck. It had the Writers logo on the side of it. It had Hanneman fenders, Hanneman bedsides, fully caged. The truck was Z'd in half and welded back together. So the geometry of the rear suspension was in the right place, was in the factory locations, but the truck was lowered. It had 3 inch. Jeez, God, the name is blanking on me now. It was. I think there were 4x4 parts, but I can't remember what it was. Anyways, it had 3 inch lift arms flipped upside down to become 3 inch lowering arms. Um, there was spacer blocks used to space the ball joints up, so the whole truck was essentially as a four-wheel drive truck, completely lowered with a Z frame, fully caged, and it did exceptionally well. I ended up taking the red truck and bringing the red truck home. That was my work truck. I had that truck on the road from, well, it started out as an automatic and I was driving it around in 2012. And then the transmission took a shit. And in 2014, I finally got all the pieces together and had all the time necessary to be able to swap it to a 5 speed, which was the best thing I ever did. So in 2014, that truck rolled out of the shop as a 5 speed. And then from there, I went through and did the whole how to build a street truck using junkyard parts series, which is on my channel. That's a whole 40 episodes, I think, of me rebuilding the suspension, going to the junkyard, getting nice seats, adding tachometers, roll bars. It was built in the spirit of a 1970s mini truck with the rake, the slots, the KC highlights, the antennas, the whole 9 yards. That was a totally awesome truck. Love that truck until 2020 when I was driving around and I was hearing a weird noise from it. Climb underneath it and find that the frame had gotten so bad in the back that one of the shocks had just ripped right out of the frame. That was the death. That was the death bell, or the death call of that truck. I retired it. It's been off the road for 6 years now. I have not driven it. I've started it a few times. It runs great, but now it's disabled because I took the fuel tank out of it. Um, it's gotten really bad. The frame is really bad. Um, So my plan, if there is a plan, if it's not so badly rotten, I haven't looked at it close lately, but the plan is to lift the cab off and put it on another frame. I have another Pathfinder frame sitting behind my barn, um, that I could use to build another Pathfinder pickup and a mud truck version, a non-street legal version. Could see about that. That would be kind of fun because I have a four-wheel drive transmission. I could turn the red truck's two-wheel drive setup into a four-wheel drive setup relatively easily, um, with no big deal. And I have a Pathfinder fuel tank, so that's no big deal there. I really have all the pieces that I could to build that, and I haven't done it. But so that red truck, I just love that truck. That truck moved me into this house. That truck moved toolboxes, engines, transmissions, cylinder heads, cabinets, furniture. It took stuff to scrap. It could tow. It did everything. That truck literally saved my life by getting me out of my old situation at the old house and bringing me here and getting me set up. And then right after that, that was the end of it. It just said, I'm sorry, no more. It had a hard life before that. I mean, when I bought it, it had a ladder rack on it. So you know it was being used as a work truck. It's always been a work truck. And it came from California. It was from Napa, California, and it worked on a vineyard. So who knows what the history of it was there. I mean, when it was here, the body was in pretty decent shape. Um, it doesn't look like that now. It looks pretty bad now. And it's very wore in. I'd love to do something with that truck. And I keep telling myself every year I'm going to do something with that truck because I want to get the thing out. I want to get the carcass of it out of here, anyways. I just don't want it in my yard anymore. So that is that. So that was that truck. Then to tie back to the rallycross truck, the rallycross truck got rolled over in a racing accident. My buddy was injured. His wife didn't want him to drive that truck anymore, so she told him to give me the truck. So I was given the truck with the anticipation that I was going to rebuild the truck and bring it back to its original condition, make it race ready, and then I would be the owner, and then it would go back to being a rallycross truck again. The problem with that is the cab was so twisted from the accident that it needed a new cab. So I ended up having to cut the roll cage to get the cab off, and that cab was junk. The fenders had been destroyed. So much had been destroyed in that accident that I had another cab from another truck. And this is where the story gets kind of screwball, but you can follow it if you followed my channel from the early days. I bought a 1986 and a half long bed, two-wheel drive, V6 heavy duty Nissan hardbody. It had 4 billion miles on it. It wasn't in terrible shape. The only thing that it had done its whole life was drive from Florida to Oregon and back, towing a race car. But it had fallen into disrepair and neglect, and nobody knows how to work on those TBIs. So it didn't run very well at all. I bought the whole truck for $350. Bought the truck for $350, towed it back to the old Nismo D21 shop, and promptly removed stuff with value and sold it. So that truck was disabled, and it sat underneath a tree for who knows how long. For a long time, it sat underneath a tree. And there was an old guy, and I'm trying to buy this truck now. There was an old guy who lived on the other side of the hill who had the same truck. He had an 86 and a half long bed, heavy duty, 5-speed V6 hardbody. He was driving by one day and he saw the truck sitting underneath the tree, and he pulled in the driveway and knocked on the door, introduced himself, and wanted to buy parts off that truck. He's like, "Is this a parts truck? Because I would buy stuff off of this truck for my truck." So I sold him the tailgate. I sold him the bed. I sold him a whole bunch of shit. Radiator. It had an all copper radiator in it. The throttle body. I think I sold him a ton of shit. And he paid. He paid everything. He was a good customer. So now that guy passed away. The old guy passed away, His truck is still sitting over there on the other side of the lake from my house. It's still sitting there. I went there last year and dropped a business card on the family and said, "Hey, I will buy this truck from you. When and if you decide to get rid of it, I would like to have it back, or I'd like to have my bed back because it would be cool to have the cab and the bed back." So after I sold the bed and all that shit, I took the rear axle out from underneath it. That ended up on the underneath the red truck. So the red truck had limited slip. It had 437 gears. That truck was a ripper. That was fun. That was a fun truck. So the cab and the frame sat underneath that tree for another bunch of years, just sitting there as part of the scenery. I was working on the rallycross truck, trying to straighten that thing out when I realized it needed a cab. So we removed the cab. We towed that whole 86 hard body from the house, the old shop, all the way over to my buddy Justin's shop. And from there, we lifted the cab off of it and we put it on the rallycross truck frame. There's pictures of that. And damn, we were so damn close to having the rallycross truck just all back together. I have pictures of the whole thing together with fenders, with the hood, with the doors, with the Hanneman bedsides and everything on it. It was just it started looking like wasn't all one color. It was a calico, or it was a chameleon kind of thing. It had colors everywhere. Or what would you call it? Harlequin. It looked like a harlequin. It just had every single body color was on it. But it was together. It was together. And I was working on that and I'm like, you know what? I bought another Pathfinder. I bought a 92 Pathfinder. That is on this channel. That's on this channel. That's the origin of the supercharged Pathfinder. That is what the supercharged Pathfinder is based off of. I bought this 92 Pathfinder in 2017. So I've had that truck for 9 years now. I bought it with a blown motor and body damage. And I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I just knew I didn't want to see it scrapped. I just, I might fix it. I might put an engine in it. I might not. I don't know what I'm going to do. But it was 2018 and I was talking to Justin and he goes, you don't have to keep it as a Pathfinder. You could just save the frame and put something else on it. I mean, like you could put like a 1950s Chevy cab on it if you really wanted to and just make it into something interesting, make it something different. And I was like, what? That sounds cool. So I started taking measurements and I realized at that time, and I'm not the first one to have done this, but I just had done all the research yet. But all the dimensions for the body mounts for the front and the A pillar mount and the B pillar mount on the frame, everything's identical between the hard body and the Pathfinder. So any hard body cab will bolt to a Pathfinder frame. So you could easily do a cab swap on it. It's not that easy because you got to squeeze Pathfinder electronics into a regular cab. But if you swap regular cab electronics along with the cab, which I didn't have, you could basically have it done in not even a fraction of the time that it took me to do mine. The reason mine has taken so long is because I didn't know exactly what direction I wanted to go. There wasn't a lot of information at the time. Mind you, the project is 7 years old now. Think about what was on the internet 7 years ago, knowledge-wise. There wasn't a whole lot. I found videos of some supercharged Frontiers or some supercharged Xterras. That's all stock stuff, but I couldn't find anything on Pathfinders. There was like a couple videos that showed one running, but it never talked about how they did it. So I didn't even know how to do it. I just knew that it could be done. So, and I was missing so many parts and pieces. So I had to go out to all these different junkyards. And occasionally, if I found a supercharged Frontier, I would just grab as much shit as I could off of it. Anything I didn't use, I would just put on eBay or put it in, in the storage or whatever. But this literally was a short block with the truck had nothing, just the cab, a seat, steering column, nothing else. And from there, I had to piecemeal it together and then figure out how to get everything to talk. And I was overthinking a lot of shit too. It's really not as complex as you think about it, but I didn't know that at the time. It was very, could be anything. I'd be like, oh boy, I mean, these sensors could be reading slightly different or whatever. But when I boil it down to it now, I'm like, it's just a VG block. You can put all the sensors on it from the VG30, and then it's just got a blower on it. But at the time, that didn't really that didn't correlate. It was a lot of research. I had all the service manuals out. You should see it. I have the book right here. Here it is. How to build your own supercharged Nissan Pathfinder pickup truck. That's it right there. That is the Bible. That is the book. That is every piece of paper that I have downloaded. That is everything that I have researched. Everything, every email from every correspondence that I've had with everybody else, every parts breakdown, every receipt. I mean, this was the journal. This had everything. I wrote down day by day what I did. This is how to build a Pathfinder pickup in supercharged form. This is the book. So if I ever sell the truck, whoever buys the truck better ask for this, because if you don't have this, you're fucked. Anyways, that's that. So I ended up deciding that I was going to build Double Dare extra large. And I ended up pulling the cab back off of the Rallycross truck. And eventually, over time, I scrapped the Rallycross truck frame. I sawed off a bunch of pieces for mounting the Hanneman bedsides to something. And someday I might mount the Hanneman bedsides to the Pathfinder pickup. But I saved as much as I could off of it. And then I scrapped the frame. And I put the cab on the Pathfinder frame. And as soon as I did that, my buddy, who gave me the Rallycross truck, he lost his mind. He was so mad. He was pissed at me. And the friendship went right down the toilet after that, because he wanted me to restore his truck so he's restored famous Nissans and famous Datsuns of people that he idolized, people that he wanted, that he did it for other people, or he did tributes to other people. And he wanted, in my opinion, I could be very wrong, I could be way off, but he wanted a protege to build and restore one of his original vehicles. And I get that. And at first, that's what I was doing. We were restoring his original idea. But me, I wanted to build my own thing. So when I took the cab off the Rallycross truck and I put it on the Pathfinder pickup frame for the first time, and I stood back and I told him what I was planning on doing, I said, I want to do a supercharged V6 5-speed 4-wheel drive with a body lift. Instead of him going, dude, that's cool as shit. And you don't have to be like that. You could be like, oh, okay. He immediately went on the tirade of how it's not going to work, how it can't be raced, it's not going to handle right, it's gonna this, that, and the other thing. And then the friendship shifted from that point. The friendship turned it into, from me being like his social media guy who was going to all the car shows and driving all these cool cars. I got to drive all these cool hot rods because I was like a hired foot for these hot rods. I never got phone calls. I would go to the shop on a Saturday and I would hang out, and all I would hear about was what I missed out on, because they never called me to tell me that they were going to go do something. And then they would be like, well, how come you're not updating the Facebook page? And I'm like, what would be nice is if you guys told me that you guys were actually going to go do something last weekend, and I would have made the arrangements to go out and take photographs and videos, and then I would have uploaded it to the Facebook page. So that the relationship shifted right after that. That wasn't cool. I didn't like that at all. And then he had a 1986 300ZX Turbo with only 60,000 miles on it. And I told him, I said, he'd been trying to sell it for a long time. No one was biting because it's with 60,000 miles, it's due for a timing belt. And so nobody wanted to open up this car and work on it because it was in pretty good shape. And so I offered to buy it. And I had money in my pocket one day and I went to go buy it. And I got there. And the whole time that I was in the shop, he ignored me. He ignored me. I figured he'd want money, but he ignored me. And I ended up just leaving. I ended up just leaving and going home. And I was like, okay, well, if you're going to ignore me and we're not going to talk about this car, well, I'm not going to buy it then. Fine, whatever. You continue going on trying to sell it. It's not my problem. That's not my car. I don't give a shit. I'm offering you money. I thought we had some kind of like mental agreement on what was going to happen. And then I got a phone call later explaining why they weren't going to sell the car to me. And get ready for this. This blew my mind. And that's when I knew I was like, my days hanging out here are going to be kind of over here. Prince had passed away. Like maybe like 8 months before, and this guy's wife was still in mourning about losing Prince, and it was too much for her to think about selling her car because it was her car. He owned it, but it was her car. And I think what it was is that she was a pack rat. She was a hoarder, and she couldn't sell anything. She couldn't get rid of anything. So when it came down to the wire to sell me this car, which I was like, I understand it needs a timing belt. I'll just bring it to my shop. I'll do the timing belt over the winter, and I'll have a 60,000 mile turbocharged 300ZX 5-speed where the body is in great shape. I mean, it'd be a great car to have. But Prince had to pass away. Fuck me, man. That's ridiculous. So I ended up not buying that car. But the worst part about the whole thing, the worst part about that was that right after I bought this house, that guy reached out to me and was like, okay, we're getting ready to sell this car. You've got a barn. Can you do the timing belt on that car over the winter? I was like, are you fucking shitting me? I'm like, wait a minute. I just bought this house. This is my barn. I've got 2 spots in the barn. I'm going to park my trucks in the barn over the winter so they're not in the snow. This is my barn. I know what he's trying to do. He's trying to get free storage. I know this because he's done it to other people in the past. He wanted to get free storage out of this thing, and under the guise of me doing the timing belt. And I'm thinking to myself, you must think I'm some kind. I mean, I'm not the brightest bulb, but you must think I'm pretty freaking stupid. Why would I willingly want to do a timing belt on a car that you refuse to sell to me because Prince passed away? What the fuck is that? So I just told him, I said, nah, dude, I'm not going to work on your car. I made up a story. I mean, it wasn't terribly made up, but I said, look, I just bought my house. I just lost my future wife. I just lost my dog. I'm not in a good place right now. I think that things are kind of suck, and I don't want to work on your car. And I was supposed to buy that car, and you refused to sell it to me, so I don't want to work on it. And from that point on, that was the end of it. That was the end of the friendship, end of the relationship. Because I was pissed. I was like, you wouldn't sell it to me, but you have me fix it and then try and store it in my garage and then get pissy with me too. He got pissy with me when I told him I didn't want to do it. And I didn't want to store it in my barn because I was going to store my green truck and my red truck in the barn. And that was pretty much the end of it. So I didn't feel bad after that, finishing building Double Dare. And I waited a little while before I scrapped the Rallycross truck because I didn't want to hear about that. But I definitely scrapped that. That frame was tweaked anyways. That thing was fucked. That truck had rolled over and bounced, and that was just the end of it. There was no really bringing it back. And even if I did bring it back, it wouldn't have been mine. It would have been somebody else's. It would have been a tribute to somebody else. Oh, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do my own thing. So yeah, it cost me a friend. Double Dare actually cost me a friend. But in the end, it's a combination of three trucks. Well, more than three trucks, but the history involves three trucks: a '92 Pathfinder, a '96 hard body 4-wheel drive, and a 1986 hard body 2-wheel drive. So that's how those atoms were orbiting each other and came together to become Double Dare. And so that was my hard body history there. Yeah, shit. I had an Xterra. I had a 2004 Xterra. It could be I think it's a 2004 Xterra. It's actually on Marketplace right now. Somebody's selling it, and I think there's something very wrong with that truck. Although the ad says, "Oh, it's in great shape," I'm like, well, it wasn't in great shape when I sold it. So unless you put a lot of money into it, I don't think that qualifies as in great shape. Um, yeah, so I had Xterra, Frontier, bunch of Pathfinders. I bought another 1990 Pathfinder with a blown engine, and I ended up parting that out. Saved a bunch of good bits off of that thing. Well, that was a nice truck, except for the fact that it had gone mud bogging and it blew a hole through the oil pan. Locked that engine up solid. You couldn't even turn that thing at all. And then I had I can't remember what year it was. I want to say it was another 1990 or 1991 gold Pathfinder. That if you go back in time on this channel to videos that are dated 2018 and older, you'll see some of these trucks. Gold Digger was the gold Pathfinder. It was the second Pathfinder I bought. That had already been swapped to a VG33. And I ended up saving a lot of shit. I have the engine for that sitting in my barn. That's my future build. I want to build a VG37ER using that block, and I have a supercharger set up. I have the whole supercharger set up sitting in my garage right now for that. That's a old man project in my 60s kind of thing. But I bought that and I saved the pulley. They had the pulley adapter so the VG30 can run the V belts instead of the SERP belt. So they don't make those anymore. This guy had this one custom made, and so I saved that. So I have that for a rainy day. I could probably sell that for a pretty penny if I don't end up using it. But yeah, Gold Digger was a piece of shit. They had put a brick on the gas pedal and let her rip, and it rolled. And you go lay down. Go lay down. You go lay down. Go lay down. Now. Go lay down. Go lay down. Go lay down. Now. It's nap time. Yeah, so that was a parts truck. Every single sheet metal piece was bent. The roof was caved in. The windshield was smashed. The hood was rolled completely over. So I had 3 Pathfinders, a bunch of hard bodies. I had 2 Ultimas. I forgot to mention the other Ultima I had. I had a '93 GLE Ultima. This was neat. It was an abandoned car. It came into the dealer for a blown engine. There was a hole in the block, and the family left the car at the dealership. So the dealership had the car loaded onto a flatbed and sent back to the family. The family turned around and brought it back to the dealership and just left it there. There was no title, no nothing. So it was an abandoned car. Dealership wanted it gone. They knew that I had an Altima. They said, "Hey, do you want this thing?" I said, "Sure, why not?" So we flat towed it. I was living in Rochester at the time, so we flat towed it to my house there, put it in the garage so it wasn't like visible, and I proceeded to sell stuff on it or sell stuff off of it through Altimas.net. And the car had heads up display. It had all the fancy stuff. So I still, somewhere in a box, I have the heads up display. I know it worked too. It might not work now, but it definitely worked 20 years ago when I had it. Um, yeah, and I ended up scrapping that car right after that. I did a bunch of stuff. I had some kid come out from Buffalo and want to buy the rear bits off of the thing. Said he was going to pay me, never paid me. He was just, and he disappeared, and I blew him up on Altimas, and he never paid me. He was just a shyster and all that. Just, you gotta watch out for them shysters. Now it's like cash up front. I had an old guy show up at the old Nismo D21 garage. He showed up in a really nice 720 one day. He actually showed up in a hard body first because he had heard about me, and then the next time he showed up in a 720, and he wanted to buy parts, and he kept going, well, let's make a deal. What else you got? What else you got? What else you got? And I was selling him stuff, and I was young and new to selling parts like that, so I was kind of lowballing myself, and he just kept buying stuff, and I'm like, okay, fine, I'll make a few $100 or whatever. But the worst one was that he reached in a box and he grabbed one of the steering wheel horn buttons that I had, and I smacked myself now for not saying anything, but he just kept it in his hand, just kept like flipping it or whatever, and never made an offer for the part, never said anything about it, loaded up everything that he paid for, and then just took the horn button with him. And as he was leaving, I was just like, yeah, don't come back. I'm like, don't ever come back. I said, I don't want to see you here. And then he just left and rolled off into the sunset. And then I saw that truck for sale on Marketplace, like, maybe a year later or whatever. It's a really clean, regular cab. It's tan 720. I don't know where it is now. I don't know if the old guy's even still alive, but I thought that was kind of shyster. Um, yeah, so I've had shysters pass through here in the past. Oh, I don't think I got any shyster customers now. I think everybody I deal with is pretty cool. I got some guys down in Tennessee area. I do a lot of business with down there. They pay, I ship. We're good. Never had an issue with any of them. Um, I have a guy that's south of me here. He was actually here last year. I had his truck on my channel. He had that dually. He brought up a dually hard body, which is cool as hell. I would love to have that truck. And he's doing a rolling restoration on that truck. And he bought some parts off of me last year, and I did a video feature on his truck. He paid. He got the parts. We're good, man. That's all it takes. That's capitalism for you. That's how it's supposed to work. And so he just hit me up today about some bucket seats that I have. I've been storing bucket seats up on the second floor of the house. I live alone, so car parts are everywhere around in here. I don't give a shit. And even if I had a girlfriend, she would have to live with car parts. That's just how it is. But I've preserved these seats upstairs because I didn't want them in the barn. Even though I do have seats in the barn, I should bring them in here and just store them in here. But I've got a set of supercharged Frontier seats with the SC logo on them. The leather is in great shape. The seats are in great shape. I saved those from the crusher. I've got a 521 bench seat up there. I've got another set of bucket seats up there, and then I've got two sets of bucket seats up here. And so he wants to come and see what I've got for bucket seats. And I said, come on up, man. Bring your wallet, and we'll get you fixed up. So I'm not sure when exactly I'm going to see him, but hopefully soon. Man, I'm running out of things to talk about. Anybody got any questions? I'll answer some questions. Love to answer some questions. I'm trying to remember all the other cars that were kind of along the path that really didn't get any recognition because either A, they weren't around very long, or B, I hated them to death and I wanted to forget about them. I'm trying to think if there's any other ones that were around at that time. I had a dually, a 1984 dually 720. I had that for probably about a year. Great truck, wooden flatbed. The guy that built the flatbed was towing snowmobiles So I'd love to have that truck now because I have two snowmobiles and I would love to have something to tow them with like that. And so I bought that truck for like $650. It was supposed to be a winter truck because I liked my Datsun at the time, and I stored the Datsun at a at another place because my parents wouldn't let me store the Datsun in their driveway. So I would store the Datsun at this place down here. Around, it's probably about 40 minutes from my house to where I live now, and I ended up buying a dually from them. So I had that. So those are the three 720s. So I've had three Pathfinders, three 720s, Red Truck, Grumpy, Patches. Oh yeah, forgot the story. Finished the story about Patches. So Patches, I ended up doing the head gasket on, and then I brought it out and I parked it in the driveway, and then it sat for a while, and I got whisked away on other projects. And when I went to go get back on it, I went to go move it. It blew a brake line, which I fixed, and then it blew a fuel line, which I knew I had to drop the fuel tank to replace. And when I climbed underneath it to try and remove the fuel tank, I was undoing the bolts with an impact, and the frame was just raining rust down. And that was the end of it. That frame was just shot. It was shit. And I decided it was time to get rid of that truck. So I ended up stripping some parts off of it. The fenders that were on it are now on that dually hard body that's down south of me, which is funny because those are the fenders that were originally on the Rallycross truck when I first bought the Rallycross truck for the project over at the body shop back in 2012. So it's just funny how all these pieces and parts just move around, and he's got a piece of history on his truck. Well, two pieces of history on his truck because those fenders were on Double Dare at one point too, when Double Dare still had the green hood, not the red front. Um, so Patches went by the way of rust. I stripped it off of everything that I wanted to keep, and then I owed my buddy Justin money. So it wasn't a lot of money. It was like $100 or $150 or whatever. And usually when we in those areas, we just take each other out to lunch or something like that, or I'll buy some parts, or I'll buy admission to a junkyard or whatever. We just kind of even it out. We're cool like that. But I gave him that truck to scrap, and I said, "Don't you can part it out you want, but I want that thing fucking crushed. I don't want anyone else to have parts off of it." So he took it, sent me a very sad photograph of it sitting in a scrap pile. They had picked it up and squashed it and put it in a scrap pile. So that was the end of Patches. I wish I could have saved the engine because I did all that work on that engine. I had the cylinder head done and everything. But you know what? I was just done with it. You ever get that feeling where I'm just done with something because it's made you that mad? That's how it was with that truck. I did all that work and then it decided to rot out on me while it was just sitting waiting. It wasn't even waiting that long. I think it sat for like a year. And in that year of sitting in that parking spot, it just went to shit. The whole thing went to shit. And I was like, fuck this thing. So that was Patches. So Patches, Grumpy, green truck, red truck. So that's four hard bodies and the white long bed and the Rallycross truck. So that's six hard bodies. As I've had six hard bodies, three Pathfinders, three 720s, two Ultimas, a couple Sentras. I want to say I had a couple Sentras. I know I had the one. I had the 84 Sentra, one Frontier, one Xterra, one Datsun 521, one Infinity G37, nothing else there. Yep, that's the ones that I can think of off the top of my head. So, yeah. Well, we've been live for 2.5 hours. It's 9 o'clock at night. There's nobody watching. I've told you quite a huge bit about my life. I guess being turning 50 really does mean that I've done a shit ton of stuff in my life. So looking back at the last 10 years, it's been a wild ride. It has been a wild ride. I'm hoping that it smooths out a little bit because it has just been so one minute I could be sitting in this chair, and next thing I know, I've got some kind of like dire emergency going on somewhere. I got a dog that's going to go to vet, you know, just stupid shit, just stupid shit that happens every once in a while. So I'm hoping that it just evens out now at this point. I just want it to calm down for a little while. Bro's been running for 10 years. Ever since me and the ex split and I ended up buying this place, it has been just a mad rush to just keep all the wires connected. And I've done a good job. I'm going to give myself a B, maybe a B plus for keeping it all together and building upon it, because it's so easy for people to just give up and just say fuck it, I'm done, and throw in the towel and then start smoking crack, and it's the end of that. I never wanted to go that route ever. um, there's just too many things that I want to do, and my main goal is to never be at the mercy of somebody else, never be indebted to somebody else. Those are the goals, and I've tried. And the last third of my life, I'm hoping that that will continue to blossom, because it has to. I'm not just gonna roll over and do nothing. So I'm gonna run. I've lost my voice. I've been talking for 2.5 hours here, and the dogs are starting to harass me, so I'm just gonna let you guys go. Thanks for tuning in. Happy birthday to me. Big 5-0. Let's hope that the 50s are all good. I don't expect them to be perfect, but let's hope that it's good. I want more good than bad. So I'll see you guys in a future video. This is the video I really wanted to make the other day, but the other day I was just kind of groggy, and so I exited. I deleted that whole video. I didn't want to put that out. That was subpar stuff. But I think sitting around here like this, kind of campfire-ish conversation about everything, I think I've accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. So if you go back to the beginning, you can hear about the last 10 years of my life, and then I talk about all the vehicles that I've owned, and I'm sure I've forgotten a bunch. I forgot. Oh, no, I had two Infinities. I was partial owner of a G20 as well. So I'd love to have another G20. And I almost owned a Pulsar. I really want a Pulsar. Shit, if I had money, my Nissan museum collection would be just ridiculous of cool cars. I'd want a first gen Stanza. I'd take a second or third gen Stanza. Pulsar. I want my first car. I want another Sentra. Another 84 Sentra wagon. That'd be cool. I'd take a sedan too. I'd take a coupe. Shit. I want a 620. A 610. But that's all just wishful thinking. Maybe someday. We'll see. I gotta have. There's got to be enough of me to be able to enjoy them too. I can't just own them. So. All right. Like, share, and subscribe. See y'all later.